Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ian Hopkins, Assistant Chief Constable with Greater Manchester Police. I can confirm that there have been 2 further deaths that we are linking to the investigation into deliberate contamination of medical products at Stepping Hill Hospital. Very sadly, an 83-year-old man has died this morning, and my thoughts are very much with his family at this terrible time. This gentleman has always been part of the ongoing investigation, and Greater Manchester Police Family Liaison Officers have been in contact with his family throughout this period. The second person is an 84-year-old lady who died on the 14th of July, and because of the measures that the coroner, Mr. John Pollard, has put in place, a post-mortem examination took place on the 19th of July. As a result of the medical procedures, Mr. Pollard has referred that case to us and to a Home Office pathologist to undertake a further post-mortem. Again, my thoughts are very much with her family at what will be a terribly anxious and sad time for them. I would like to reiterate that this is a complex investigation, and we are awaiting the results of medical tests to confirm the causes of death of all those that we are currently investigating. It has widely been reported that a 27-year-old woman is currently in custody, having been arrested by Greater Manchester Police detectives. Her custody continues, and it would be inappropriate for me at this time to comment any further on that part of this investigation. I would very much like to reassure people that both of the deaths that are now forming part of this investigation occurred prior to the police being called. And since the police have been investigating and the measures have been stepped up in terms of security at the hospital, we have had no further incidents of deliberate damage or contamination of products within Stepping Hill Hospital. I'm now happy to take a few questions.
Mr. Hopkins, Sky News, what can you say about the patient who was reported as being critically ill in the past few days? These 2 further deaths are not, that person is not one of the people who died, is that right?
No, Mike, you're referring to a 41-year-old male that we talked about on Tuesday of this week. My understanding, he's still in hospital, and clearly it's not for me to comment on his well-being, but he is still within Stepping Hill Hospital being cared for.
Bruce Clegg, BBC News.
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
These people who have died, were they all being treated on wards A1, A3?
The focus of our investigation is around wards A1 and A3, and both people that have died today have at some stage been in those wards.
2 sources have told us that George Keith was not being treated on A1, A3.
As I've said, the investigation is ongoing. You're aware that we have somebody in custody that we're questioning. It would be inappropriate for me to give away information that may form part of somebody's defence.
Bruce Clegg, BBC News. The other people that are forming part of the investigation, the other 9 people, what's their condition at the moment? Are there any that you're seriously concerned about?
Again, that's really an issue for Stepping Hill Hospital. I'm not prepared to talk about individual patients and their welfare. That's between them and their carers at the hospital.
What can you tell us about whether or not the 2 further patients who've died that you've just announced, do you know whether they were treated with contaminated vials of saline?
I'm unable to say that at this time. Clearly we are awaiting the results of Home Office post-mortems. As I said earlier in the week, these are complex medical investigations that take time, and at this stage we have no information as to what the exact cause of death is.
Jane Deeds, Channel 4 News. Are you now looking further back than the 7th of July?
We've always said that our focus at the moment is about preventing any further harm to patients within the hospital and about the investigation to bring to justice the person that has committed these deliberate acts. Once we've achieved those 2 aims, then we will look historically at cases prior to the 7th of July, but our focus very much remains on the here and now.
Okay, any more?
How's the police investigation going at the moment? Is it still the same? Is it still the same amount of officers?
Absolutely, we still have around 60 senior investigators working on this case around the clock. They can continue to do that. and we will do so until we think it is time that we can reduce that number, but we're nowhere near that at this stage. It's a priority for Greater Manchester Police.
In terms of your presence at the hospital, has that been scaled down, or does it remain as high as it was a few days ago?
No, you've all been at the hospital, and your viewers will have seen the amount of private security the hospital have employed. Our police officers, the numbers have remained constant as we seek to reassure people in and around the hospital and support the hospital in their security operations.
Are you looking at making any more arrests?
We won't rule out making any more arrests. As I've said all along, this is a thorough investigation and it may lead to further arrests, but I'm unable to comment on that any further at this stage.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen.